July 21st, 2014. Sitting in the old Westrom Blacksmith Shop that used to be down by the, what they called the gate. The orchard was fenced because all the cows ran loose, and this had to be down there, and they would shoe horses and stuff, and then they moved it up here. The building got moved here from before my time. I don't remember it down by the gate. I say the gate because that's what it was always referred to. We had a big gate down there. We had to keep the cows in and out. My Uncle Elmer, he was here all the time, and this was the repair shop. My grandfather, he was a blacksmith, and Elmer did all the electrical, and it's still here, like pretty much like they left it. We had electricity. Elmer we had electricity to the house, the barn, the shed. The electric is still here. You can see the original wiring. This was a repair shop. It was for horses and buggies and horseshoeing, and then you'd have, it started with the cars, and we still seem to have some of the original parts in here from way back when you had Model Ts. We got two Model T engines here that I can see right now. And so another engine I don't know what. There's a motor with a winch on it that came out of the sawmill. They used that to lift logs. Well, I remember Elmer pulling up. There was a building which we called the summer kitchen above the cellar and all of that. And Elmer would have his car parked out here, and he'd be in here working. And my dad inherited everything. And Elmer was taking it down to his place, and Naomi and I were under this north end of the building one time, and they were slugging it out. I didn't see any blood, but it was probably more of a tough push and shove deal, but that was their relationship. This building is still here only because when the farm burned in '76, there was a grass fire which headed to this building from some other buildings that were burning, and my dad saved it. And all the other people around here were just standing there watching. Nobody had any, just a waste of, you know, they could have done better, but, you know, they were here for the entertainment, I guess. I see so much stuff right here now. There's this light plant I'm looking at here, a homemade light plant. Elmer Westrom made that. And he had his own electricity. I don't know what it is, but we had 32-watt lights here when we were kids, and that might be what this thing is here. There's a generator and a motor and dials, I don't know. Well, that was the original generator for lights and stuff, I understand. We didn't have that when I was a kid. We had what we called a 32-volt light plant, and they were popular during World War I. When they had them, and they had them in the camps and stuff around here, and it would start and stop by itself as it needed electricity. It would charge the batteries. That was down in what we call this light room. It was under the other summer kitchen light. Okay, the old forge. It's I actually used it myself for Al Matty. He would bring old lead up here, if you can imagine that today, how dangerous lead is, and I would make lead sinkers for him. And I would have coal. He brought me coal, and then I would heat up this mold, and I would heat up melt the lead and pour it in the mold. It smelled kind of good. I don't know what happened to me, but maybe that was where I got my good humor. Yeah, I don't know. I ain't got none. But, and I think I got, I don't know, penny a piece to make these things, these sinkers for, Al Matty used them sinkers, lead sinkers for fishing. There's a great big drill press back there that has to be one of a kind, and it still works. And then the vise, my grandfather had so much nice quality stuff, and this vise looks like he made it out of a jack. I don't know how that works. And where this light plant is now, when I was a kid, there was a great big lathe there that came out of the mines, but that disappeared during World War II when they were all grabbing up any kind of a piece of equipment they would use for defense. So that disappeared. And the cutout here on the floor is for doing grease jobs and working underneath cars. Anyway, I just turned around and looked, and I see 2 hay forks. They were used in the barn. You'd stick them down in a load of hay, and then you'd pull up the levers, and the binders would come in. You'd lift up the hay, and you'd go up to the top and hit the track and go wham down, and then you'd trip it, and that's the way you loaded the hay barn. And there's 2 forks there. There's a lot of history still in here. A lot of it got sold, and my dad had an auction, and I'm still irritated about that. But the stuff he did sell is still here today because it didn't get burned in the other buildings. So I remember we had working on it would have been a 47 Plymouth after the war. We paid $2,000 for it on the black market, and we had about 40,000 miles on it, and the timing belt went out on it. And I had that thing torn apart in here, and I was working underneath it. So I had it. That was the first car I ever worked on in here. But that would have been, I would have been in my high school days. I just look at this stuff and think that my grandfather had this, and most of it, some of it's still probably in the position that Elmer and my dad and my grandfather did. But everything worked in here when I was a kid. It was a solid shop. My dad put the roof on with George Roth. He put the metal roof on. Oh, I don't know where that metal came from, but it was used then, and it's pretty bad shape now, but it's still keeping the roof dry. And I think it adds to the shop, but that was done probably in the early 50s. I'm trying to restore this shop. It's not going real well. I can only do a little bit a year, but it's got to be saved. And I have a rule today that everything stays. Nobody takes anything, because then it'll be destroyed.